everyone, to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. I cannot wait to share this delicious cake recipe with you. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make my lemon blueberry loaf cake. It's going to have a streusel topping, which is always the best part of any coffee cake, fresh blueberries, bright lemon, and a nice lemon drizzle on top. Let's get started. We're going to begin by making the streusel crumb topping, and it's so easy. Everything comes together in one bowl. You're going to take 4 ounces of either soft or melted unsalted butter. You can use salted butter for this if you'd like. In America, the butter is not too salty, so it's perfect for this recipe. Go ahead and add it to a bowl along with 2/3 cup of granulated sugar and 1/2 cup of flour. This is all-purpose flour. And if your butter is not salted, you could add a little pinch of salt at this point. Then I'll just add the zest of a lemon. This is a really large lemon, and I don't mind it because we love the flavor of lemon. You can do a smaller lemon if you like. And using a fork, you can go ahead and mix everything all together until everything comes together like this and it almost looks like a cookie batter. At this point, you're just going to want to either pop this in the freezer or in the refrigerator while you're making the cake batter. So we're going to begin with the dry ingredients, and in this bowl over here I have 1 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour. That's about 240 grams, 1 teaspoon or 5 grams of baking powder, a little pinch of salt, and now I'm gonna zest some lemon in here. If you're using smaller lemons, 2 lemons are fine. You're looking for about 2 teaspoons. Since this is a very large lemon, I'll use 1 and maybe a little bit more of a smaller one. It just really brightens up the cake. And then once the lemon is zested, make sure you're using only the shiny part of the lemon, because once you get to the white part, it's bitter. You don't want that part. Whisk everything all together and set it aside. Now we're gonna move on to the mixer. So in my mixer over here, I have the paddle attachment on, and I'll add 1 1/2 sticks or 6 ounces of unsalted butter that's nice and soft. To that, I'll add 3/4 cup of granulated sugar and 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Let that start going until everything starts to come together. And then I need 2 eggs. You want your eggs to be at room temperature. And if you forgot to take them out earlier, you can put them in a bowl of warm water and just change that water out a few times. And in a few minutes, you'll have room temperature eggs. You can always spill the water out and then crack the eggs in that same bowl and then add them to the mixer. And as soon as everything comes together, it's time to add 1/4 cup of whole milk. Go in every now and then with a spatula and mix everything up so that way you can loosen up whatever's stuck to the sides and the bottom of the mixing bowl. Once the mixture is nice and fluffy, then you're going to add your flour mixture. So add all of the flour in, and as soon as it comes together, we're going to go in and add the blueberries. 2 cups of blueberries is what you're looking for. These are frozen blueberries, and it is going to seize up the dough a little bit, but it works. It just takes a little bit longer to bake, but it does work. If you have fresh blueberries, you could add those at this point too, and let this mix until they're all combined. Your cake is going to become this beautiful lavender color. So I have a loaf pan over here that I've lined with parchment paper, and I just used the butter that was stuck to the wrapper just to grease the paper nicely so that way the cake releases easily. So transfer all of the batter to the prepared loaf pan. You're going to smooth it out. You're going to see that it's really, really thick. And that's what you want, because when you're making a coffee cake, you want the batter to be thicker so that way the streusel doesn't sink into it. At this point, once the batter is in there, you're just going to add all of the streusel that's going to have hardened by now. Add it to the top of the cake and make one even layer. And this is going to go in the oven. It's going to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're using fresh blueberries, it'll take about 45 minutes. If you're using the frozen, the batter is going to be cold and it's going to take about an hour to bake. You'll know it's ready when a toothpick inserted into the center of the cake comes out clean, and then you're just going to have to let it cool. So while the cake is cooling, we're going to make the lemon glaze that's going to go on top, and it's so easy to make. In a bowl, you're going to add 3/4 cup of powdered sugar, also known as confectioner sugar or icing sugar, half the juice of a lemon, and then a little splash of vanilla extract, like 1/2 teaspoon. Whisk that all up, and once it's nice and smooth, it's ready. I also like to zest a tiny bit more lemon into it, lemon zest into it. You should zest the lemon first, but I did have an extra one, so that's what I used. If the icing is looking a little bit too thin and translucent, you could always thicken it up with a little more powdered sugar, whisk it up and set it aside. Once the cake has cooled completely, You want to make sure that the cake is completely cool. Take it out of the loaf pan, remove the parchment paper from the sides, and drizzle this icing on top. It's so good. If the cake is still warm, what's going to happen is it's going to melt it and it's going to absorb into the cake rather than just being a nice topping on top. All you want is for it to be drizzled on top, not soaked into the cake. It'll be kind of syrupy and too sweet if you do that. This cake is bursting with blueberries, which makes it so nice and tender, and it's just so nice and fresh with that lemon flavor in there. You really can't go wrong with this cake. You could either serve this straight the way it is with some coffee, or you can serve it with some ice cream just to make it a really nice decadent dessert. Like I said, you can't go wrong with it. Everyone's gonna love this just because it's so moist and delicious. You can head on over to the website to print this recipe out, dimitrasdishes.com. When you make it, share pictures with me on Facebook and Instagram. I love to see them. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, yes.